Good morning, guys. Can we start? Can we start? Hello, I'm audible.
Yes, ma'am.
We'll start, okay? And thanks for joining today's Sunday, no? It's already done. It was the demo class. I think most of the people have seen it. For those who joined late or who had not seen this demo class, okay? It was the demo class topic, mastocytosis. So this is the overview of our today's class. So first we'll read little bit introduction about mast cells. Then what is the definition of mastocytosis and what are the different WHO criteria and how WHO classifies it, and about a little bit about each entity. So what is a mast cell? It is derived from your bone marrow hematopoietic stem cell, especially the myeloid precursor. And how it is released? It is released as a precursor or a progenitor. Okay. And it will mature only after reaching your tissues. Normally what happens in bone marrow, a mature cell will be released into the periphery, right? Correct. Whereas the mast cell will be released as a immature one or as a progenitor. After reaching the tissue, it gets matured. Okay. So what all the features of the mast cell after terminal differentiation? It has CD34 positive and c-KIT positive and CD13 negative, and it will be positive for the serum tryptase, because as we know, all the mast cells will have those granules, right? There are two types of granules, primary granules and secondary granules. They contain the serum tryptase enzyme. So next is your structure. So how does this mast cell look? See, it looks like a round, two spindly cell with somewhat centrally placed nucleus. Okay. And the cytoplasm has, see, so many granules. These are the granules. So these are the granules which contains lots of enzymes, acid proteoglycans, which take up the basic diet. That's why they are blue. So they can be stained with methylene blue, allicin blue, toluidine blue, and ginseng blue. So they can ask you, what are the stains to demonstrate a mast cell? What are the granules? How do they look? What is the difference between a mast cell and the basophil? Also, they might ask you. Okay. So see, this is the mast cell, round to spindly in shape. Okay. It has lots of granules. So in IHC, you can use the serum tryptase, right? Then when you see an electron microscopy, these are your granules. This is how they look. Electron dense granules, and they have this cytoplasmic microplicase, like us, okay, projections. Now, how do you differentiate between the mast cell and the basophil? See, both have this blue color granules, right? But basophil is exclusively seen in the circulation, whereas mast cells are seen in the tissues. Okay, they are released as a mature ones. The basophils are released once they are matured, but they are these mast cells are released as a precursors. Once they reach the tissue, they become mature, right? So basophils are smaller compared to your mast cells. They are more round and they are somewhat oval. And basophils have lobulated nuclei like this, like bilobed, and it is covered by these dense granules, right? Here it is round. So obviously the granules will obscure your nuclei. Here the granules partially will obscure, okay? Cell borders will be smooth, and see here it is bumpy like this. So lifespan of basophils will be days, whereas mast cells stay up to the months. So what is the definition of mastocytosis? So mastocytosis is a heterogeneous disorder. So what happening here? There is a clonal neoplastic proliferation of your mast cells. Why these mast cells are proliferating like this? Because they have acquired one mutation. What happened to your mast cells? They acquire some mutation, because of that they are dividing. That is called clonal proliferation. Okay. Because of this, they are going and infiltrating your different organs and causing to organ failure. This functioning and causing this organ failure. Okay. This is the main definition of mastocytosis. What happening is your precursor cells which give rise to mast cells are acquiring the mutations due to which they are dividing clonally and going and infiltrating the different organs, causing their dysfunction and failure. So let's see what is that mutation. So these are those three mutations. One is KIT dependent. Apoptosis is not happening. That's why cells are keep on dividing. They are not dying. So what is this KIT dependent? See, there is a KIT gene which is located in your chromosome 4. Chromosome number 4. Okay. Long arm 1, 2. I taught in the previous classes 1, 2 is what? Region, band, subband, right? So region 1, band 2. So that's where this gene is located. So what happens? This gene, there is one codon called as 816. There what happened? Substitution of aspartic acid with valine has happened. Because of this small change, substitution of aspartic acid with valine. Because of this small change, that leads to the activation of your receptor, which is present in your mast cell. So this is the mast cell, here is the receptor. So this receptor is coded by this gene. So this gene is abnormal. So obviously it will produce the abnormal receptor, right? So what happens? Usually the receptor gets activated only if a growth factor binds to it, right? But here you don't need this. Because of this mutated gene which produces this abnormal receptor, it will be active. Continuously it will be active. It does not require any stimuli. And it cannot be inhibited also by negative inhibitors. So it is continuously active, leading to the proliferation of your mast cells. Okay, what is it? c-KIT mutation at 816, where there is a substitution of aspartic acid with valine. Okay, that you have to understand. And whoever is using the laptop version, please accept the people who are waiting in the lobby. Okay, please somebody volunteer. Otherwise, I get disturbed every time I can't change my screen. So whoever has joined late, I'll brush up one more time for you guys. So this was the demo class which we conducted. Whoever has missed, I just want so that all the students should be in the equal, not like somebody has missed some class and somebody attended some. So we were a little bit introducing about mast cells. What is mast cells? They are derived from your bone marrow, especially myeloid precursors. So what is special about your mast cells is they released as a immature cells from the bone marrow. Normally, mature cells only releases from your bone marrow into the peripheral circulation, right? But your mast cells will be released as a immature ones. When they reach the tissues, they get matured. So what are the markers for mast cells? It is CD34, CD-KIT, which is also called as CD117 and CD13 negative and serum tryptase. Okay. Then how do they look? They are round to oval with centrally placed nucleus and their cytoplasm has that numerous granules which take a blue dye. So mainly those will be consisting of this your acid proteoglycans. So what are the stains which can be used to demonstrate these mast cells is your methylene blue, Alcian blue, toluidine blue and Giemsa stain. So this is how they look. Okay. Somewhat spindly to round. Okay. Now the electron microscopy of your mast cells, they have this electron dense granules. Okay. And they have this cytoplasmic projections called as micropliques. Now, what is the difference between the mast cells and the basophils? This is the most common question they might ask you in the Viva. So, basophils are smaller compared to your mast cells. Basophils are more of round and mast cells are oval. And usually basophils have this bilobations and this will be obscured by your this dense basophilic granules. Whereas here it is round to oval nucleus and it will have those dense basophilic granules. And the border will be smooth and it will be a little bit bumpy and the basophils stay for days whereas mast cells stays for a month. And remember, the basophils are released as the mature ones into the blood, whereas mast cells are released as immature ones. And their maturation happens only in the tissues. So now coming to our topic, that is mastocytosis, how your WHO is defining it. Before that, you just understand that there is a obviously all the cell will have nucleus, right? Except RBCs. RBCs and platelets are the cells which does not have the nucleus. So your mast cells will have a nucleus, right? So what happens here in the nucleus, they get some mutation. Because of the mutation, they get the survival advantage. So they keep on proliferating. They keep on proliferating, and this is called as clonal proliferation, means they are arriving from the single cell. So all looks alike. And this proliferation go and infiltrate your different organs, causing the dysfunction of this organ and organ failure. Okay. So let's see what is the mutation which is happening in the mast cell, which is leading to this clonal proliferation or neoplastic proliferation of mast cells. So basically, first they are dividing because of some KIT mutation. They are keep on dividing, and whoever is dividing are not dying off. So obviously, as a result, they accumulate, right? And other modifying mutations. So let's see what is KIT. So this KIT is present in chromosome number 4. Q means, last class I taught you, Q means long arm. 1 means region, band. 2 means band, right? So it's 4q12. So the mast cells will have a chromosome number 4 where there is your KIT gene is located, which normally codes for a receptor called as KIT receptor, which has a normal role in your mast cell proliferations. Okay, it has a normal. So what happened to your KIT gene, which is present in the chromosome number 4, at 816 position, there is substitution of aspartic acid with valine has happened. So because of that, what happened? Obviously, this gene is abnormal. So whatever the receptor it will code will be abnormal, right? It is not normal one. So what happens normally? Normally, a receptor gets activated only if a growth factor or its ligand bind to it, right? And after a certain time, it will becomes inactivated. There are some feedback mechanisms which causes its inactivation, right? So only it will be active for a certain period of time till you get the desired effect. Correct? But here your KIT gene has mutated, right? Your KIT gene has mutated. So if your KIT gene has mutated, so obviously whatever receptor it's gonna produce is abnormal. So it does not require any growth factor or ligand for its activation, and it escapes the feedback or inhibitory mechanism. So as a result, it will be continuously active. What? This receptor is continuously active, causing the excessive proliferation. And it cannot be inactivated because it is resistance. It is not the normal one, right? So as a result, your mast cells keep on proliferating. And they keep on proliferating, and they infiltrate all your organs, leading to organ dysfunction and failure and finally death. Okay. That is the pathogenesis of mastocytosis. How do your WHO classify this mastocytosis? It classified based on the system involved. If this mast cells, the mast cells like whatever we read now, which has this mutation, are infiltrating your skin, then we call them as cutaneous mastocytosis. If they are involving systemic, that is most common is your bone marrow. If they are involving your bone marrow, GIT, other organs, we call it as systemic. What is mast cell sarcoma? When this fellow is becoming very bad and aggressive, we call it as mast cell sarcoma. So now, what is cutaneous mastocytosis? So there are again 3 types of cutaneous mastocytosis. One, I always tell you, what do you mean by cytoma? Whenever you listen this term, what should come into your mind? It is solitary. Always you see a cytoma, what should come to your mind? It is solitary, means a single. So in a skin, if you are seeing a single localized lesion, we just call it mastocytoma. Diffuse means obviously the name itself is telling, so it is diffusely involving your entire skin, right? The next one is urticaria pigmentosa. Here the patient present you with multiple pigments like this. So that is one type. One is with pigments, that is maculopapular urticaria pigmentosa cutaneous mastocytosis. One is mastocytoma. One is diffuse cutaneous mastocytosis. So one more time we will revise what all the WHO classification of mastocytosis. It is cutaneous, systemic and mast cell sarcoma. Again our cutaneous is classified as three. One is urticarial or maculopapular cutaneous mastocytosis or mastocytoma of the skin, which is solitary, and next is the diffuse cutaneous mastocytoma. Now, what do you mean by systemic? So it is involving the system, right? So it is again classified into five. Indolent means innocent, smoldering means asymptomatic, aggressive, associated with other hematological neoplasms, and mast cell leukemia. That means in systemic, the bone marrow is involved, right? The most commonly it is the bone marrow involvement. So when these mast cells will spill into your peripheral blood and you are seeing in the peripheral blood, then we call it as mast cell leukemia. Okay. So what are the classification of systemic mastocytosis? One more time, it is indolent, the person who is very innocent. Asymptomatic means he is naughty fellow, but when you see he'll be like very innocent, but he is naughty. That is smoldering. Remember, even in plasma cell neoplasms, we read smoldering, right? So which is asymptomatic, where there is no crab, correct? There is no end organ damage. So like that here also it is smoldering is there. Indolent, smoldering, aggressive and associated with other neoplasms, hematological neoplasms. And when your mast cells spill from bone marrow into the peripheral blood, we call it as mast cell leukemia. Now see, because if you want to give a diagnosis as a cutaneous or systemic, whatever, there should be a equality, right? Because sometimes I may feel this is this, you might feel this is this. So to avoid this confusion and inter-observable variability, especially in the pathology, we always follow criteria. Okay. Okay. So what is WHO criteria? The WHO criteria for your cutaneous mastocytosis is first you should see a skin lesion. To call it as a cutaneous mastocytosis, first the lesion should be in the skin. Either it can be urticarial pigmentosa or maculopapular, or it is mastocytoma, or it's a diffuse. First it should involve the skin. And in skin, next more important thing is there should be no systemic or bone marrow involvement. There should be no systemic and bone marrow involvement. And your skin biopsy should show infiltration of mast cells, which can be a multifocal or a diffused pattern. So these are the criteria. There should be no systemic or bone marrow involvement. Exclusively, it should involve the skin. If it is involving only a single or localized, we call it as a mastocytoma. If it is multifocal or if it is presented with pigments, we call it as pigmented mastocytosis. Or if it is diffused, we call it as diffuse cutaneous mastocytosis. So next we will be discussing about, now we have read about the criteria, right? Now we are going to read about each entity in the cutaneous mastocytosis. So the cutaneous mastocytosis is most common in children. Remember C, okay? Cutaneous and children. So C stands for C. And most common age is 6 months. So how they present? They present as Darrier sign, melanin pigment accumulation in the epidermis, and blistering can be seen. So this is a diagram which is showing your this wheel and flare like urticarial rashes. Now tell me, what is Darrier sign? Anyone? Anyone who is there today? Who will answer? Shalini, Sumaya, somebody please. Nobody? Okay. So Darrier sign is means this is the skin, okay? When you stroke your skin, so I am stroking my skin like this. So what happens? The mast cells present inside your skin, because of this mechanical stimuli, they get unstable and they release their granular content like this. They release this granular content that causes like that wheel and flare like reaction you will see. And the surface becomes a swollen, itchy and red. Okay. So what is Darrier sign? It is a observed after stroking your skin of a person having mastocytosis. Okay. Then the skin becomes swollen, itchy and red. So next is what? Urticarial pigmentosa or maculopapular cutaneous mastocytosis. So see, these are the rashes. How the patient will present. It will be entire body. It's also common in children. As I told you, all the cutaneous mastocytosis are common in children. So here we take a biopsy, skin biopsy from this patient. Then what you're gonna see? You're gonna see the spindle shaped aggregates of mast cells in the papillary dermis and sometimes even in the reticular dermis and also along your adnexal and vascular structures. So as the name itself suggests, somebody has unmuted. Please mute yourself. There is a background noise. So mastocytoma means it is a localized lesion in the skin. Generally same, no? All cutaneous mastocytoma cytosis are common in your children. So main thing is here cytological atypia is absent. And same, spindle cells filling your papillary and reticular dermis, that will be same. Only this is the important and it is just localized single lesion. What is diffuse? The name itself tells. See, it is a diffuse. See, all your mast cells are diffusely infiltrating your entire dermis. So it's a band-like infiltration. So same, the childhood is common, no? So that gives like this grainy leather appearance clinically when you see the skin. This is called green leather appearance. So now, this was your cutaneous mastocytosis, right? This was the criteria. First, we did classification of mastocytosis, right? Cutaneous, systemic, mast cells. Then classification of cutaneous mastocytosis. Then we read classification of systemic mastocytosis. Then what is the criteria for cutaneous mastocytosis? Then we read in general points about cutaneous mastocytosis. These are the general points. Then we read about each entity. Okay. Now we are going about systemic mastocytosis. So what are the types of systemic mastocytosis? Victoria? There, unmute yourself and tell what are the types of systemic mastocytosis. Nobody is answering. Am I audible?
Indolent,
Hmm.
smoldering,
Hmm.
and aggressive, associated with other neoplasms and mast cell leukemia.
Good, very good. Chalo. Now unmute yourself. We'll continue. So that is the classification of systemic. So before classifying it as a systemic mastocytosis, first we should tell it is systemic, right? So what is the criteria to call it as systemic? It should fulfill all the major criteria and plus one minor. Okay. Or if there is no major criteria, at least you should fulfill more than 3 or equal to 3 minor criteria. Either major plus 1 minor or 3, at least 3 or more minor criteria to call it as systemic mastocytosis. I told you, systemic mastocytosis, what is the most common organ involved? It is your bone marrow. So it is your bone marrow. Okay. Now I am suspecting this patient with mastocytosis. So what am I going to do? I'm going to do biopsy. Then in biopsy, I will be seeing mast cells. Correct. I am suspecting systemic mastocytosis. So I am expected to see a mast cells. So how many mast cells? That is important. So how many mast cells? you should see more or equal to 15 mast cells. How they should be? Not dispersed like one here, one there. They should be in aggregates. So when we call aggregate as a aggregate, in respect to this, okay, I'm talking in context with, don't apply everywhere. I'm talking only with respect to systemic mastocytosis. So what is a cluster? At least you should see more than 15 or equal to 15 mast cells in aggregates. Okay, that is the first point. And it should be multifocal like this. Here one place, here one place. So it should be multifocal. Not only bone marrow, it can be any organ also like liver, kidney or something like that. Okay, so you should see a mast cell cluster. How many? Because few people can tell cluster is two cells is cluster. For me, it can be 4 cells a cluster, right? So there should be a transparency about our thing. So that's what WHO made. It should be 15 or more than 15 cells in a cluster you should see. Then what is minor criteria? So for example, here you are seeing the this 15 cells in a cluster, right? In that 25% means how many cells? At least some 5 mast cells should show cytological atypia or they should be immature. Understood? So whatever this cluster you are seeing, no, in that at least 25% or more than 25% mast cells should show morphological atypia and immaturity. And obviously your c-KIT mutation, that is 816, D816V mutation. That we're going to see with what? PCR. All those things you should see the point mutations, okay? FISH and all. Then CD25 positive. Remember, CD25 is not a normal marker present on our mast cell, right? We read, no? What all the markers your mast cell has? Normal one, which we read. What are those? CD34, CD117 positive and CD13 negative and serum tryptase, right? So from where do this CD25 came? I already told you. Whenever somebody becomes malignant, so they start expressing the aberrant markers, right? So that's how your mast cell starts expressing the aberrant B cell marker. What it is? It is a aberrant B cell marker. So that's how they are telling that we are not normal. Okay, because I am abnormal, I am expressing this aberrant B cell marker, that is CD25. And obviously your proliferation of mast cells are happening. So serum tryptase level should be more than or equal to 20 nanogram per ml. See, this is very important because there are people who will have allergies like asthma, all those things. Don't you think in that condition also your mast cells do proliferate? Yeah, they do proliferate. So that's why we need this criteria of more than 15 cells. And do you think in asthma and all, you see mast cells, aggregates. But do you think you're going to see RTP and immature mast cells there? No, right? So that's why this criteria plays a very important role. And even serum tryptase levels also will be there, but not so much like more than or equal to 20. Coming to general points about your systemic mastocytosis. So systemic, always remember second decade. So S stands for systemic and second decade. Whereas what I told you, your cutaneous mastocytosis, C stands for your children. Okay, like that you remember. C and children, S for second decade. So obviously to call it systemic, it should be always bone marrow. So if it is the bone marrow, you will have anemia, infections, thrombosis, platelet, all these things because they are these malignant mast cells will keep on proliferating and they occupy your entire bone marrow, right? That's why you will end up having these constitutional symptoms. And why do we have the skin manifestations? As I told you, these are the mast cells, which are abnormal mast cells, right? They will have those granules, right? Primary granules and secondary granules. So they keep on releasing their content. So they causes all these mediator related syndromes or mast cell activation syndrome and organ failure. Organ failure is due to this infiltration of this mast cell into the organs, right? If they keep on infiltrating, how Papa the normal cell there will function? So like that, there will be an organ. So what we're going to see in the peripheral blood? I told you why we're going to see anemia, all these things, because your bone marrow is getting filled up by whom? Your entire mast cells only proliferating, and it is filling your entire bone marrow. So there is no place for the other progenitor or hematopoietic stem cells to proliferate. That's why you have all these penias. Then why eosinophilia? It should be eosinopenia, right? Anyone? Anyone wants to answer? Why there is eosinophilia, not eosinopenia? First.
Myeloid proliferation.
Ma? Loud. It's okay. I'll appreciate at least you tried. Whether you are right or wrong, it's other thing. At least you should try.
Because eosinophils increase in the allergic condition.
This is not allergic, no, it is neoplastic condition.
Neoplasm is due to the mast cell.
Okay. So I will tell you what happened is so these mast cells will produce this mast cell will produce what? Interleukin 5. What they will produce? What they will produce? Interleukin 5. Your mast cells will be producing a interleukin 5. So interleukin 5, 3 and 4. These three are chemotactic factors for your eosinophils. What they are? They are the chemotactic factors. So that's why they keep on proliferating and you cause a eosinophilia. Got it? So your mast cells will secrete what? Your mast cells will secrete the interleukin 5. So that's how it's gonna happen. Okay, and that's why you see eosinophilia, whereas all other markers will be reduced. Am I clear? Next, coming to bone marrow findings. Even you remember in your Hodgkin's lymphoma, does anybody remember Hodgkin's lymphoma? What you see predominantly there? You will see what? Eosinophils. Right? In Hodgkin's lymphoma, we see eosinophils. Right? So, why we see eosinophils? Because in Hodgkin's lymphoma, who are your malignant cells? They are your RS cells, right? In Hodgkin lymphoma, the RS cells also secretes your same interleukin 5, 3 and 4. 5 is more important. That attracts your eosinophils. So that's why in Hodgkin's lymphoma, it's very tough to see the RS cells. We have to search RS cells like anything because it is filled up with your eosinophils, neutrophils, lymphocytes. That's why when you start your description of Hodgkin's lymphoma, you start like polymorphous population of cells are seen. Have you remember? It is always polymorphous population. But when you describe a NHL, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, we start like monomorphous population of cell is seen. Correct? So that's how the difference is. So understood interleukin 5? So that's how your interleukin 5 plays a role. Now coming to bone marrow findings. So there is a cluster of, in what you're going to see in bone marrow, obviously you're going to see a cluster and cohesive aggregates of your mast cells. Either they will be in the diffused pattern or they will be in the interstitial pattern. Okay. Now coming to B and C findings. What is this B and C findings is, see, what happens is, first we have told what is the criteria for systemic mastocytosis, right? This is the criteria for your systemic mastocytosis. But there are how many types of systemic mastocytosis? We have 5 types, right? So again, we need some other criteria to classify those 5, right? Like to call a systemic one as an indolent or to call one as a smoldering or to call one as a aggressive. We need certain criteria, right? Anyways, it is systemic mastocytosis only, but again we want to reclassify. Okay. So for that, we need to have a little bit again criteria. So we call it as B findings and C findings. B are borderline findings. C are critical findings. Okay. Why we have to classify systemic mastocytosis is indolent, smoldering, and aggressive? Because obviously you tell me indolent will have good prognosis or aggressive will have good prognosis. Which one will have good prognosis? Obviously, indolent will have good prognosis, right, compared to aggressive. So it become very important to segregate all these entities, even though all are same. Even though all are systemic mastocytosis, it's very important, right? Okay, then coming to the B symptoms. So coming to B symptoms. So B symptoms first, it should be mast cell burden in the bone marrow should be less than or should be more than or equal to 30%. So mast cell burden in your bone marrow more than or equal to 30%. That is one thing. Okay. Now this is the borderline finding. What can be the critical finding of this? It is like these are burden means they are proliferating so much they are not letting the other lineage cells to proliferate, right? That leading to more than one cytopenia. So you have to interpret like this. So high burden mast cells more than or equal to 30% in bone marrow is borderline finding. So what can be a critical finding of this should be its presence as a more than one cytopenia. Understood? Now coming to dysplasia. I think you all will know what is dysplasia. Nuclear and cytoplasmic features of dysplasia. What is dyserythropoiesis and what is megakaryopoiesis and what is dysgranulopoiesis. I think you know all these things. So no need to repeat now, right? Now next coming to dysplasia. So this dysplasia or myeloproliferation in the non-mast cell lineage. You are seeing in some other lineage, but it is not sufficient enough to diagnose any other malignancy. Like we are seeing the dysplastic features, but it is not fulfilling any other criteria of your MDS or MPN or any other thing. So that's what he is telling. So there is a dysplasia or myeloproliferation in non-mast cell lineage, but it is not up to that you can classify as some other malignancy. Okay. Now next. There should be a hepatomegaly, but there is no impairment of LFT. So what can be the critical finding of this? This is the borderline, right? So what can be the critical here? It will be with liver function test failure. So here there is a hepatomegaly with impaired LFT, that is liver function test, causing what? Ascites, portal hypertension, esophageal varices, hematemesis, all those things. Here one more is hepatomegaly without splenomegaly. Without hypersplenism. So there is a spleen which is palpable. So it's called as splenomegaly, but there is no hypersplenism. What do you mean by hypersplenism? Means it is causing excessive destruction of your platelets or excessive destruction of your RBC is not there. So what will be the critical finding of this? So we have a palpable spleen with hypersplenism, right? That's the thing. Extra point here is lymphadenopathy. This is how we understood. Now here we have two extra points. One, see, these are more than 30% of bone marrow. But here they are so much that they are filling your entire bone marrow and causing the cytopenia, right? So they have filled so much of your bone marrow that now they don't have a space to proliferate, and so they end up causing this lytic lesion of your bone also. As a result, there will be a fracture like this. Understood? So that's how we should correlate this with this. So one is more than one cytopenia and they're proliferating so much that they have eroded your bone and causing a pathological fracture. They're causing osteolytic lesion and pathological fracture. Here one extra point you should remember is lymphadenopathy, and here the extra point is like they are infiltrating your GI. Okay, they are infiltrating your GI and causing malabsorption. Because your entire mucosa is getting infiltrated by mast cells, how you gonna absorb the nutrients? So that's why the patient become cachexic and loss of weight, and he comes with diarrhea, all those things. Okay. So these are the B and C findings. Why I have taken so much of time is this is important to classify your systemic mastocytosis. So these are our systemic mastocytosis. So indolence means what? See, the name itself is telling it is indolent, means it's a very innocent guy. So obviously the mast cell burden are supposed to be very low. Skin lesions can be present. So here what you're going to see, first it should fulfill your WHO criteria for systemic mastocytosis, right? Then it should have only one B finding. Okay, that's it. So obviously it has low mast cell burden in the bone marrow when you do biopsy. So that's why the serum tryptase levels are normal. So you should keep in the mind, it's not always more than or equal to 20 nanograms of serum tryptase levels is required for diagnosis. Even it's a mastocytosis, even it's a systemic mastocytosis, the serum tryptase levels can be normal. Okay, got it? So next, coming to the next thing. Next is your smoldering systemic mastocytosis. Okay, 1 minute. I got one message. Sorry. Okay, now the smoldering systemic mastocytosis. What happens? See, smoldering means this guy is naughty, but he doesn't show off. In front of teachers, he will be the innocent fellow. And when teacher is not there, he will be the naughty one. Who got the doubt? What is the doubt, Ma Trupti?
सीरम ट्रिप्टेज के बारे में क्या बताया आपने अभी?
Serum tryptase, see, what is serum tryptase? It is an enzyme present in the granules of your mast cells, right? So, in indolent systemic mastocytosis, what is the tumor burden? What is the mast cell burden? It is very low. So that's why you have less mast cells, right? So when you have less mast cells, so obviously the granules of mast cells are also less, right? So that's why you will have serum tryptase levels normal. Okay.
Okay.
So don't always keep in the view that serum tryptase levels will be raised in mastocytosis. There is a condition called as indolent systemic mastocytosis where you can get a normal serum tryptase level. Okay, I just want you to tell that. So be aware of such things. Don't get carried away that, oh, mastocytosis means proliferation of mast cells, so serum tryptase should be more. Don't keep like that. Okay.
Yes,
That's the thing. That's what I wanted to emphasize you people, because that's how we tend to over extrapolate. No, so I'm telling, don't have that wrong impression. Now smoldering. Smoldering was what I told. This is a naughty guy, but in front of everybody he shows like I'm very innocent. So here the tumor burden will be very high. So first he has to fulfill your WHO criteria to call it is a systemic mastocytosis, right? Then you should see more than one B findings. So what are the B findings? Can anybody revise for me? Can anybody do revision? I think I thought very slowly B symptoms and C symptoms. Nobody? Okay. Nobody?
Ma'am, mast cell burden more than 30%, hepatomegaly without altered function, splenomegaly without altered function, lymphadenopathy
Without hypersplenism?
without hypersplenism.
Without.
Yes, ma'am.
Then lymphadenopathy.
Lymphadenopathy. Yes,
Then one more thing is there, no? Dysplastic features.
dysplastic without towards any other myeloproliferative disorder.
It's a dysplastic features, but not able to fulfill the criteria of any other neoplasms. Okay, very good. Who told this? Who told?
Shruti, ma'am.
Good, Shruti. Chalo. So first it has to fulfill your WHO criteria for systemic mastocytosis, and it should have more than one B findings, and the patient should have here organomegaly. And don't think that KIT mutation I am going to see only in mast cells. It can be seen in all other lineage, right? And skin lesion present. So it is the hematopoietic stem cell of myeloid lineage acquiring this mutation and showing the differentiation towards your mast cell. That's how you should remember. Understood? What it is, this mutation is happening in your hematopoietic stem cell of myeloid lineage having this and showing the differentiation towards your mast cells. So skin and here the skin lesions can be present. Remember, smoldering skin lesions, smoldering skin lesions. And I told you, no, systemic mastocytosis second decade and cutaneous mastocytosis children. Coming to aggressive. See, the name itself is telling he's an angry young man. He's very, very angry. So obviously the mast cell burden will be high. So bone marrow, you should see at least 20% of nucleated cells. Less than 20% of nucleated cells should show your mast cells. And here same, see, WHO criteria, more than one B finding, more than one C finding. Remember, in indolent, it was just WHO criteria and one B finding, right? When we come to smoldering, it becomes WHO plus more than one. When you come to aggressive, one more extra comes. WHO more than one C. Okay, more than one B and more than one C. That's how you should remember. Then again same organomegaly, and this is important. This is your potential MCQ. This is your NEET SS MCQ. Like I told you, no, serum tryptase levels are normal in which mastocytosis? That is indolent mastocytosis. So what we tend to understand, we'll think like, oh, this is aggressive systemic mastocytosis, means there should be skin lesion also. Okay. So, but it is ulta. There will be no skin involvement. Okay. And this one has a more propensity to go into your mast cell leukemia. Is mast cell leukemia? I told you when it gets spilled from your bone marrow into the peripheral blood. See, that's why your bone marrow, obviously, if it has to come out of your bone marrow, there should be more mast cells here. Like there should be no place. So in aggressive, it has not yet become plasma cell leukemia. Still there is a place in your bone marrow. That's why the percent is less than 20. When they become more than 20, so they will not have space in your bone marrow, so they get spilled up. Then it causes mast cell leukemia. Got it? Less than 20, more than 20. Of all the nucleated cells, you should see that many mast cells. And obvious what you are expecting in bone marrow. It should be diffused densely infiltration of your this atypical immature mast cells, right? So again, based on the peripheral smear. So in the peripheral smear, how many mast cells you are seeing, based on that, your mast cell leukemia is classified as classical and leukemic. Mast cell MCL is mast cell leukemia. So if you have more than 10, it is classical. If it is less, then we call it leukemic, because it is tough to identify, right? Because they are less in number. That's it. Now, what all the associations, like when the systemic mastocytosis can occur as a part of another neoplasms, that is chronic myelomonocytic leukemia, MDS, MPN, and acute myeloid leukemia. So what happens? These are also malignant cells, right? These are also malignant cells. They already got so much of mutations, so they are very unstable. So what happens? They acquire this your KIT D816V mutation they acquire. Then they give rise to your mastocytosis. Got it? So they are already unstable ones. So they acquire this new mutation causing this systemic mastocytosis. The most common is what? CMML. That is chronic myelomonocytic leukemia. Then your MDS, MPNs and AML. Now last topic for today is mast cell sarcoma, also called as malignant mastocytoma. It is very rare. See, the name itself says so. It is a very destructive person. It destroys everybody and you see sheets and sheets of atypical mast cells. So why it is so aggressive? Because it has TT2 mutation. Because of that, it has this much of aggressive behavior. So as we know, in mastocytoma, they have aberrant expression of B cell marker, that is CD25 and also CD30. And this is c-KIT mutation and CD34 and CD33 positive. So these two are the extra markers. And this is important, TET2 mutation. Now, what are the investigations you're gonna see? Now a patient comes to you. So I personally divided it like a routine and specific. Okay. That's how I remember. One is routine and one is specific. So first I'm going to do is routine test like CBC, peripheral blood. That's all, that all I will see. And to fix our B and C symptoms, I want to do LFT, right? So because if there is no impairment of LFT, it becomes a B symptom. If there is an impairment of LFT, it becomes C symptom, right? And serum tryptase level. I told you in indolent, it can be normal also. So that you should keep in mind. Don't think, normal, no. You should be aware there is an indolent entity where there is serum tryptase level can be normal. Then specific markers like plasma levels of soluble C25 because it's an aberrant expression, right? And c-KIT that gives that stem cell like feature. So they divide completely. So these are the specific tests. Then to rule out your hepatosplenomegaly, we can go for USG or CT. Preferred is USG. And C symptom, you remember C symptom, there is a lytic lesion presenting with pathological fracture. So for that we do an X-ray. And gut, you remember I told if it involves the GIT, involves your mucosa, there can be malabsorption, right? To rule out that we go for endoscopy or biopsy. No, then these are your specific, right? These are our specific tests like skin biopsy. Because there are so many conditions like anaphylaxis, scleroderma, these all can mimic your mastocytosis because there are also allergic conditions, right? Then, so that what we do, we take a skin biopsy and we do IHC. So what gonna help you? It is your CD25. What? Which marker gonna help you? Because see, these are also mast cells. These are also mast cells, right? But these are aberrant mast cells, which you see in mastocytosis. But these are normal mast cells, right, Papa? These are the normal mast cells have an abnormal response to your some antigenic stimuli, right? So here, which marker will help you? That is your CD25 because obviously your CD34, 117 also will be positive in your mastocytoma or also in your allergic conditions. But these are the normal. So they don't express your aberrant CD25. Correct? So that will be expressed in your mastocytosis. That you should be aware. Then coming to other investigations. Obviously, you're going to do bone marrow too if you are suspecting the systemic mastocytosis, right? Then you apply that criteria like more than 15 cells in a cluster, at least 25% should show morphological atypia. And then to confirm they are mast cells, you will do the stolidin blue, methylene blue, all those stains. And you can do IHC also for serum tryptase antibodies. And see, you should look for expression of CD2 and 25, which are the aberrant markers. That's how you're going to differentiate from the normal mast cells. Even in asthmatic patient and allergic patients, you see sheets of mast cells. You can't tell he's having mastocytosis. It's a different entity. Okay, that is non-neoplastic. It is neoplastic. So your CD25 plays a very important role. That's how the bone marrow picture shows. See, these are your mast cells. Can you see how much are there? And these are the spindly cells. So here in the bone marrow biopsy we are seeing. So these are the mast cells, aspiration and biopsy. So what should be your differential diagnosis? Your mast cell hyperplasia and mast cell activation syndrome. Same I told no that CD25 plays an important role and sometimes serum tryptase level also. Except indolent systemic mastocytosis, other conditions serum tryptase levels will be usually more than 20 nanograms. So these two things will help you. And also the morphology, immature, you'll not be seeing atypia. In these two conditions, mast cells, even though they are increased, they don't have that atypical features, okay? Like hyperchromatic nuclei, prominent nucleoli, or typical mitotic figures, you will not be seeing here. That's your differential diagnosis. So what is the prognosis? Obviously, based on the subtype, right? Cutaneous and indolent will have very good prognosis, whereas your mast cell leukemias, aggressive systemic mastocytosis, and mast cell sarcoma gonna have a bad prognosis, right? This is the diagnostic approach. You can just go through it. That's it. It's enough, I think. So first, when you see a biopsy, if you are seeing any mast cell infiltrate, then think whether it's child or it's adult. Then do the serum tryptase levels and see whether it's more than 20 or less than 20. Then look for mastocytoma of skin or something like that. Then in adults, you carry out further things for this c-KIT mutation and CD225 expression in the bone marrow. Look for any criteria, it's fulfilling or not. If it is fulfilling, then it becomes systemic mastocytosis. If it is not fulfilling, it can be a cutaneous mastocytosis. Okay. So these are my reference. I hope you are clearly understood this. If it is asked in the exam, you're gonna write. Everybody is there. Please talk. Otherwise,
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
I can't
Yes, ma'am.
understand whether it got cut, stuck, because I don't know, no, because I can't see you people. Okay. So I guess it's easy to understand. Just go through the notes and PPT which I have shared in the group. And happy Sunday. Thanks for waking up so early even on Sundays. Okay. From tomorrow we will start acute leukemia. Tomorrow class will be on the basics of acute leukemia. Monday. Tuesday it will be a myeloid, acute myeloid leukemia. Wednesday it will be acute lymphoblastic leukemias. Okay. Once we are done with leukemias, then we'll start with lymphoma. I think after lymphomas, I think majority of your important topics in WBCs has been covered. So, and try to read that day itself because it will be fresh in your brain, so it gets easily imprinted. And try to do more revisions as possible. And please stick to the notes itself. Don't refer too many books. It can add to more of confusion. And I have referred some 3-4 books and made it concise. Still, if you want, you can read, but it's just waste of time. My concept is please give a revisions. I gave 4 revisions. Then I got 71%. Okay. So I prefer if you minimum has to do three revisions. Otherwise, you at the end of the exam, you can't remember everything. So focus on the revision and try to do at least 3 to 4 revisions before you sit for your theory exams. And make sure all your notes are in your handy. Okay, those who wants to take printout, take a printout. And what I used to do is I used to have a separate plastic envelope. That plastic envelope we get, right? So I used to stick HAMAT, systemic, general anta. So whenever I used to make a notes, I used to put it in that plastic envelope. So what happens, few people have a habit of writing in the papers and they end up losing the papers. Either you keep a separate notebook and pick it like HAMAT notes. You keep a separate notebook for each topic, like cytology notes, one full book of 200 pages, long book, and one 200 pages for HAMAT. Or for systemic, I used to keep system wise, like FGT, MGT, like that I kept for my systemic. Or who doesn't want to keep a notes, or who want to take printouts, please follow that paper envelope back type thing, whatever I told. And for those who doesn't like printouts, who just take their tab and roam, please make a separate folder in your tab, like hematology notes, general path notes. So better for you to revise during exams. Otherwise, what happens? You waste your time in searching. My sincere advice is, see, between a paper and paper, you hardly get 1 day gap, right? Like tomorrow is, today is my paper 1. So tomorrow or day after tomorrow, I'll be having paper 2. So hardly you will get 1 day gap. So in that 1 day gap, you have to revise everything of your paper 2. Because if you don't remember, revise, then you, even though you have read it, you cannot write for your exam because it will not flash you. And one more stress point is, in my exam, we had 10 questions, each of 10 marks. So if I calculate averagely, I will get some 18 minutes for each question. Imagine writing a 10 mark question in 18 minutes, and that to 5 pages means in 2 minutes, you have at least 2 to 3 minutes, you have to finish the entire page. That means unless until you have revised it, you cannot reproduce with that speed. Because if I pause for a while also, if I think also, I'll be losing my precious 2 minutes. That means 1 page time is gone. So take into all these accounts, okay? There is the importance of time management, because all your 3 years of damn hard work and dedication depends on those 3 hours. You will be judged on those 3 hours. Even you can't afford to lose 1 or 2 minutes. Okay, that's how I missed. No, if I would have got 6 more marks, I would have got better rank in my university. Still, I got top 5. I was in still top 5, but still that regret shouldn't be there. Got it? Those 5 minutes also sometimes do matter. Or sometimes it may be like pass and fail scenario also makes a difference, right? Like 50 marks is pass and you got 49. That shouldn't happen. So that's why I'm telling, still you people have 8 months or 6 months time. So please focus on these points. Reading, everybody does. Along with reading, you should focus on your time management, and your mental health and physical health do matters. So please look into those things, like proper sleep of at least 6 hours before exam also matters. So you can do all those if you start preparing for now itself. Okay. You can't win a war just by going like that. You have to prepare before, at least 8 months or 6 months before. That's how you're gonna win it. Okay. So hope I am clear about the tips regarding your exam. If you have still more, you can message me. I'll let you know, because today I finished fast. I told this. Okay. Then have a good day. Happy Sunday. Bye. See you tomorrow. Any suggestions, please do WhatsApp. Bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.